hopefully.
All right, it's January 3rd, 2019. We're going to do read from Keys, Love Letters from God. The channeled works by Robert Nelson, who's sitting at the front of you. He's going to be reading it. He's going to be reading it number 25, and it's called Sin.
Yeah. Get ready for a redefinition. Don't you like these warnings I give you right before? Anyway, okay. Listen to sin. Sin is simply putting trust in the misperception of separation. Wow. Sin is simply putting trust in the misperception of separation. When you perceive separation, you may tend to react in ways which are unnatural. Thus, the feeling of separation is compounded. This, my beloved, is sin. As we go through this, we're going to find that it's not falling short of the mark. That's what we've been told that sin is. That's what we've been taught. And generations before us have been taught the same thing. Like I said, this is a redefinition. Sin, because of its self-perpetuating nature, is masochistic. This, of course, is not the way of our kingdom. You said that before. The solution to sin is freedom, not separation. The key to being free from sin is to be free from separation. Wow, simple. This you do as you ask me to help you to recognize and realize freedom from fear, the source which is separation itself. Remember that the thought of being apart from your source gives birth to fear, the most harmful of all of the false gods. The separation as it is let me state that again. The separation as it is, as it can be called, gives rise to the reaction that is the fear of not being real. So the separation can give rise to that reaction. Now, he's referring to it here. Many people, they talk about the separation. He's saying the separation. So this is what we're talking about, the concept of being separate from our Creator. This false god of fear tells you that you are not eternal and that you are not adequate and that you are not being safe or secure. Now think about it. That's what fear does tell us. We're not eternal. We're not good enough. We're not deserving enough. We're not safe. All these things. If you feel like you're separate from your Creator, from your source, that leads to all of the fear-based nonsense which we call illness or insanity. And these are just some of the main forms of fear. The worst being the fear of not being loved. So, my beloved, it becomes necessary to feed these forms of fear in ways which are meant to appease them. This then becomes repetitive and unhealthy. What he's telling you is that when you do this, you're feeding the false god of fear. You're keeping it alive, keeping the ego alive, giving it everything it needs. So don't. Always, this is ongoing addiction and is self-imposed. I'm going to read that again. Always, this ongoing addiction is self-imposed. Those words are very important, self-imposed. Once you give in to such a view of yourself, you are then beginning a downward spiral, which pulls you and anyone around you who allows it into the same resulting delusion. So the very belief in fear promotes the dangerous and false view of yourself, capital S on self, God's self. First you have the belief in the separation from your source. Then you have the fear in any numerous forms and irrationalities. This is followed by self-imposed and addictive behaviors in an attempt to appease the false god of fear. These very behaviors have a wide range of manifestation. However, they are all rooted in believing yourself to be less than you really are. Constantly, it requires more and more of your soul's energy to fuel the addictions necessary to appease the false views of yourself. Remember the ego's view, the limited fisheye view? So you see, and here we go with the redefinition, sin is self-imposed nonsense. S-I-N. Self-imposed nonsense. People are not sinful by nature, nor can sin be passed from one generation to another. You cannot pass sin from father to son. There is a major difference between sin and genetics. I never curse a generation of beings with a burden of sin. I am incapable of doing so, for such would be the beginning of my own undoing. This is completely impossible. Sin is not carried in the blood. You have heard it said, the wages of sin is death. No. The result of sin are increased illnesses in the form of delusional behavior and perceptions which naturally lead to physical illness as well. So delusional behaviors and perceptions certainly do result in physical illnesses because we're the creator. And if we're misperceiving ourselves, then we're making ourselves ripe for illness. So always the perceived need for self-imposed nonsense, S-I-N, sin, is a matter of individual choice and responsibility. You are free from sin as you help free one another to be free from such. You are free from sin as you help free one another to be free from such. The choice to be free is both an individual one as well as a shared one. As it is shared, so it is realized. In remembering your true identity as mine, so are you offering yourself true freedom in forgiving sins committed against you by others, as well as those sins committed by you against those around you, and even against yourself. You are clearing the path for your own freedom from sin itself. So it's very simple. By forgiving others who sin against us, by forgiving us for sinning against others or even ourselves, we are clearing the path to freedom. See how potent, how powerful, how meaningful forgiveness is. As such, forgiveness makes straight the way of restoration of perception to that of wholeness. That's what Keys is about. Restoring our perception of wholeness. You can't restore wholeness. I've told you this before. It's eternal. It can't be undone. It can't be chipped away at. It can't be destroyed. Our perception can be focused on something other than wholeness, but we have the right to bring our perception back to wholeness. That's what is restored, the perception of wholeness. And my grace you have awaiting you whenever you should choose to make it your grace. Freedom from sin is not bought. It is shared. People Please never think that when you put money on the collection plate that you're buying some kind of state of grace. You're paying for the church and whatever activities it may do. And you're paying your minister's salary, but you're not buying your freedom from sin. So it is shared, not bought. As you share this freedom with your brother and sister as well as with yourself, so likewise do you share it with me, meaning God. Freedom is the antithesis of sin. It's the opposite of sin. For you may never have both freedom and sin operating at the same time within the same individual. It goes back to you can't serve two masters at one time. The choice then is whether to let self-imposed nonsense be your master or to let yourself, capital S, real God self, be the master in freedom. So you must choose whether to be mastered or to be the master. Neat statement. The whole concept of sin is being lacking or without grace or lacking sufficient goodness, and is a falsehood because of that. You are not capable of supplanting my vision of our wholeness with the view of falsehood. Any such view of your capital S self or your brother or sister as being less than worthy or less than whole is only a temporary view at most. My vision of our shared identity is eternal. And as such, it is as real as I am. I promise you there was no original sin. Wow, right there. Because there was no initial judgment of you by me. So do not judge yourself either. In freedom with you, God. So, we're shown sin is self-imposed nonsense. It has nothing to do with falling short of the mark or a final judgment.
Or Adam and Eve.
Or Adam and Eve. Or Adam and Steve, even, for that matter.
All right, now.
No, I mean it. I said it the way I meant it. It has everything to do with shifting our vision from wholeness to something less. And that has to do with worshiping the false god of fear. We're free to know better about ourselves. Real knowing, freedom. And that counteracts sin. For us and for those around us. And we can offer that freedom to those around us. And it's up to them what they do with it, not up to us. We can love them anyway. So as I said 2,000 years ago, go forth and sin no more. Godspeed.